Water, earth, fire, air. Long ago, the four nations lived together in harmony. Then, everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked. Only the Avatar, master of all four elements, could stop them. But when the world needed him most, he vanished. 100 years passed and my brother and I discovered the new Avatar, an airbender named Aang. And although his airbending skills are great, he has a lot to learn before he's ready to save anyone. But I believe Aang can save the world.
Hello, my name is Ernest J, and I am a doctoral student in exercise physiology, and I'm studying at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. I decided to do this to represent my methodological identity. This series, Avatar: The Last Airbender, is my favorite anime, and I have not had the opportunity to use it somehow in my academic journey until now. And so I'm very excited to talk about it here. And thanks to Dr. Kane for giving us this opportunity. I came into this course feeling like a strong earthbender. In the Avatar series, there are four kingdoms, just like you heard in the monologue, and each kingdom has certain characteristics. When I think about my ontological lens, that is my beliefs about what is real, I picture the Earth Kingdom. In the Avatar universe, Earthbenders drew strength from stability, groundedness, and things that feel solid beneath their feet. So that's exactly how I entered qualitative research. Coming from a strong quantitative background, I believed reality was something stable, and I still do, but I believed it's something stable, measurable, um, and and ideally generalizable, right? I trusted consistency, confirmability, and clear patterns, and that's what I always trusted, nothing else. But as I moved deeper in qualitative methods and participated in different activities in this class, I realized experiences aren't fixed or uniform. I saw that reality can be more than one thing. Most importantly, it depended on people's backgrounds, stresses, and lived experiences. I had not heard about or been questioned about absolute truths, like big T truths and small t truths. But now, even though I still value structure and patterns, I understand that multiple realities can coexist. And like the Earth Kingdom, those realities are shaped by our environment, our histories, and even our lived experiences. What once felt like one single truth for me now feels more like many truths depending on the context, and these truths can firmly stand side by side. Moving on to my epistemology, I believe knowledge is created, evolved. My epistemology evolved into something more, much more fluid, like the water tribe. This is Katara in this short video. She's a typical waterbender, and waterbenders are able to adapt to their context, flowing and reshaping depending on what is in front of them. They can turn water to ice, they can turn the ice back to water, they can vaporize it. As long as it is water, they have a way to manipulate it somehow. And so at the beginning of this course, I saw knowledge as something we uncover. But now, especially during my interviews, for example, I experienced that knowledge is actually something we can co-create. My participants shaped the meaning with me when I was doing my interview project, and I realized that truth is not fixed. It moves. It deepens through conversation. Even when two students described similar struggles, their interpretations were completely different. That taught me that people's realities are valid even when they do not match each other. This shift reminded me of Zuko, who's a firebender. Um, the moment he begins to question everything he thought was true. I'll talk more about Zuko when I get to the Fire Nation. But my own Water Tribe moment for me came when I recognized that qualitative truth doesn't flow from measurement, but dialogue, reflection, and relationship. Let's go to resonances, which I explained with an air nomads and their culture. My methodological preferences, those are the kinds of qualitative approaches I naturally connect with, align most with the air nomads. Their philosophy is deeply rooted in movement, like we're seeing Aang do here. Curiosity, he was a very, very curious person in the anime, and spiritual openness. As I learned different methodologies this semester, I noticed the pattern. I kept returning to approaches that allowed freedom and exploration. So, phenomenology drew me in because it focuses on in my project. It focuses on lived experiences, which was the heart of my project, on how doctoral students find balance. Grounded theory appealed to my need for structure, but also invited me to build new explanations from the ground up. Narrative work reminded me to avoid the danger of a single story, especially the video we watched in class. It really spoke to me. And case oriented approaches, as we learned, aligned with my interest in context and variation. So, across all these methods, air emerges. I value flexible designs that move where the participant leads rather than forcing a rigid structure. This mirrors Aang's journey when he was learning his bending. He was born an airbender but had to learn other abilities, and he was able to do that because he's the avatar and has the ability to learn other abilities. So with his journey, he realizes that bending requires responsiveness, not resistance. He had a hard time learning earthbending, for instance, because it was the character that he needed to bend the earth was directly opposite his nature as a person. He would like to run away from troubles, never meet things head on. But when he was learning earthbending, he learned that he had to meet objects head on. He had to meet trouble head on. And that was something that was very difficult for him to do. So methodologically, I am learning to let the data breathe and to follow participants' energy rather than controlling it, like I could do in quantitative research. Yay, this is Zuko. He's the main inspiration behind my choice of for this work. When I think about my ethical responsibilities and my commitment to data quality, the Fire Nation becomes a powerful metaphor. Fire holds immense potential. It can warm, it can protect, but it can also destroy if handled carelessly. And this is exactly how qualitative data feels to me. My interviews included deeply personal topics like stress, burnout, um, mental health, and self doubt. I learned quickly the ethical sensitivity matters just as much as methodological skill, especially in the final lectures that we had in this class. And I discovered that quality criteria that I discovered that the quality criteria that resonated with me were confirmability, dependability, and transferability. And these reflect my post-positive roots. I want readers to see the steps I took, understand how I moved from raw data to interpretation, and trust the consistency of my process. But I also learned that representing participants carries great responsibility. Their voices must be handled with care, And I cannot reduce their experiences to neat categories that I see fit or single stories because we've learned a lot about the dangers of single stories. But just like Zuko, learning to fab responsibly, I am learning that ethical qualitative research requires discipline, humility, and awareness of power. Reflections on Zuko's internal struggle. The main reason I used Zuko and the Avatar Air, the last Airbender, is this. His journey is the perfect metaphor for positionality. He constantly grappled with who he is, especially in season one or book one, where he thought he was something else, right? He was always asking questions. Who am I? He thought what he needed was honor. He fought with his father, who was the Fire Lord, and he got banished after losing that fight against his father. So all that time in season one, he thought he could regain his honor. He constantly grappled with where he comes from, what he believes, and so on. And that mirrors my own journey as a researcher this semester. My identity shaped everything for me. I'm a Black African man, an international student. I'm somebody with a strong quantitative background because I studied nutrition, I studied biotechnology, which is a seriously quantitative field. And I'm a doctoral student who is experiencing many of the same pressures my participants described, especially in the interview. These identities shape and help me build rapport and understand their stories on a personal level, but they also brought biases I had to acknowledge. Sometimes I was an insider, related deeply to their struggles with time, health, and burnout. Other times, I was an outsider, interpreting their experiences from a different cultural or personal standpoint. But over the semester, I noticed a shift. I became more reflexive, more aware of my own reactions, and more conscious of how my background shaped what stood to me. Like Zuko over here, you can see from the left hand side, he is so angry. That was his face in the book one or season one, where his eye just got burned by his dad. He's trying to find the avatar so he can return into the dad as proof that he's honorable. And then in the middle pictures, you can see confusion and weeping. And in the end, which is on the right hand side, he later became the Fire Lord after defeating his evil sister. But like Zuko, I'm learning that becoming a better researcher requires confronting my assumptions. He did that, understanding my story, and allowing myself to be changed by what I learn and not stick to what I think is truth or fact no matter what. One of the most surprising lessons of this semester was the importance of play. In Avatar, play is how Aang learns. Aang, unlike Zuko, could just not concentrate. Everything had to be some sort of a game for him. And so Toph, who is on the right hand side, the girl in the green, was trying to teach. She was his airbending teacher, and Toph likes to face things head on because she's an earthbender, and that is how they are. And she found a hard time teaching Aang because Aang was playful in nature. But Katara, who was a waterbender, taught Toph how to teach Aang, so he listens. So Ang learns through movement, experimentation, and curiosity. So in my project, the same idea showed up in unexpected ways. During interviews, I learned to improvise, follow the flow, ask better probing questions. During the observation, I learned how overwhelming it can be to capture everything, especially with the assignment where I had to go sit at the library and observe people in the library. It was overwhelming because I'm like, what am I looking at? What am I supposed to get from this? It taught me how important it is to create structure. And in a focus group like the activity we did in class, I learned how human personalities can shape the entire research space, like people who always agree to things, people who disagree, and all that. During the analysis, coding began to feel like bending for me. Earth, I would say, was the first cycle. where I grounded the data into unit structure right there. Water was like the second cycle for me, where I let the ideas flow into patterns. And then the air was the development and the theme development from your rising above the details to see connections, or like the spiritual part of air. And fire was the interpretation, where I refined and shaped meaning with care. Not everything went smoothly, and that was the point, in my opinion. Mistakes become teachers for me, play becomes practice, and practice became growth. As I reflect on who I am as a qualitative researcher, I think about the avatar state. This is Ang in the avatar state. The avatar state is the state where the avatar goes in and is able to manipulate at the highest level. At this state, they have the power of all and the ability of all the previous avatars combined. And so an avatar in the avatar state is very powerful. They're able to like go into that state and leave that state as and when they need. So that is a symbol of power here, but for me, it is a symbol of integration. And yes, as you can see, no single bender can do all these, but the avatar, after learning everything, is able to integrate all of these powers combined and is able to bend multiple elements at the same time. So I feel like I'm becoming a mixed methods thinker, someone who values numbers and narratives together. I'm becoming more reflexive, aware of how my identity shapes my inquiry. I'm becoming more comfortable with complexity, uncertainty, and multiple truths. I'm becoming someone who sees stories as data, not as anecdotes, but as meaningful insights into human experience. And ultimately, I'm becoming my own version of Zuko or Avatar Aang, where I'm balancing structure with openness, discipline with empathy, and confidence with humility. Just like mastering all the four elements for Avatar Aang, and learning qualitative research is not an ending, it is the beginning of an ongoing becoming. Thank you very much for staying with me to this point.